everyone, my name is King Ivy, and what I've done is this is a Tableau demonstration using open source data that's available on the World Bank website. I'll be including a link in the description below which highlights where I've obtained the data. And the data I obtained was GDP per capita, average teen birth rates per thousand, and then as well over a 42-year time span. And what I've done is I've taken each of these circles represents a country. So you'll see, for example, here's Iraq. And what each of these circles represents a country, and I've split the countries into 6 categories: Mediterranean, Europe, Western Pacific, America, Southeast Asia, Africa, based off the World Health Organization, so WHO. And what I'm going to show you is the relationship between GDP per capita and average teen birth rates over a 42-year time span. So let's take a look. So you'll see that a lot of countries have very high teen birth rates per thousand. And you'll see over time, the countries start to shift to the left, upper left. So it's interesting. You'll see that Africa is still in this cluster. They are increasing in GDP per capita slowly. You'll see that the Mediterranean's dramatically moving up there. You'll see that Europe, even by the 90s, has pretty much reduced average teen birth rates, pretty high GDP per capita. You'll see America slowly falling along, and Southeast Asia and Western Pacific. You'll see countries like Japan, for example. You'll see countries like Fiji, Laos, so Cambodia. So you'll see that generally they move to the upper left. So we might conclude that there's a relationship between GDP per capita and average teen birth rates. But let's dive a little bit deeper into the data. So what I've done here is I've created a linear time series linear trend, and each of these lines represents the WHO region, and as well I've created a linear trend just to see if there is a relationship, and as well I've forecasted the data from 2013 to 2021 just to see what kind of relationship there is. So what I've seen is the reason why I created these categories: high income, upper middle income, lower middle income, low income, is because I wanted to see if there is a relationship that with income and average teen birth rates. And for the most part, you'll see that as time progresses, there's a downward trend. You'll see that there's a little slight upward trend in Eastern Mediterranean low income, but for the most part, it is a downward trend. And then you'll see that high income and upper middle income tend to have a lower birth rates just by the eye test, we'll look in the visuals, than lower middle income and low income. But except for Africa, it really stands out here. And perhaps one of the reasons why is, and we may conclude, but when we actually dive a little bit deeper into the data, what we see here is we filtered by high income, and you'll see that there's actually only one country that's classified by the World Health Organization as high income, and that's Ecuadorian Guinea. Sorry, I pretty much brutalized that pronunciation. So since there's only one, it may not be a representation of the type of analysis that we want to perform. So what we're going to do is we're going to eliminate high income altogether, and you'll see that generally there's an upward trend as we move towards low income, and that may or may not be expected. So let's take a look at see if there's a linear relationship between GDP per capita and average teen birth rates. So what you'll see here is that I've developed a linear trend, this is black line, and what I've done is plotted all the countries' average GDP per capita and average teen birth rates over that 42-year time span. You might want to consider creating a circle for each of the countries in years. So let's take a look at this linear trend. So let's describe the model. So what we'll see here is that it has a low p-value, which means that there's a high probability that we can reject the null hypothesis. And as well, you'll see that it has actually like a fairly low r-squared. And what this implies is that how well the line fits to the data. So what you'll see, it does line of best fits, so it tries to reduce basically the deviation from the median squared. But what you'll see is that it is kind of expected because there's quite a few large variances. So what you'll see, for example, here, Qatar has a pretty high GDP per capita at on average 45,000, but has a high average teen birth rate at 55. Well, higher than we would expect. Or actually, sorry, the other way around, has a quite a high income given its birth rate. So interesting. But let's take a look at, let's see if there's a better relationship. Is it just time? Is it just social values changing globally over time, where women's rights and especially adolescent female rights are changing over time? So what we did is I've plotted the average teen birth rate over time across all the countries, and what you'll see here is that there is a downward trend, and you'll see this black line here represents the trend, and you'll see that already based off of the eye test, you'll see that it is a pretty strong trend. And actually, we should go back here. This doesn't necessarily mean there isn't a relationship between GDP per capita and average teen birth rate. That just means that there's not a linear trend based off the data sets that we currently have. There may be a logarithmic trend. There may be different types of regressions that you can perform that better assesses, when you change GDP per capita, what is the impact on average teen birth rates. So what you'll see here, so if we actually go here, so you'll see, for example, it has a very low p-value, which is great. That means we can reject the null hypothesis, and that it's important to note that it is both on the intercept, so that means the intercept is likely valid, and as well the slope, which is this first line. And what you'll see here is the r-squared is 0.9899, which means that it's basically a 99% fit, roughly. I know that's not the correct statistical analysis, but it's basically a strong relationship between the linear trend and as well versus the data. So you can see here, we can even show the forecast, and as you can see in the forecast, right now, not right now, but in 2011, 2012 time span, we were expecting an average teen birth rates of 44.34 per thousand, and by 2020 we expect 34.09 if the trend continues, which is, in my opinion, a positive thing. And you'll see that the trend continues downwards as well, so it does follow a very close relationship. So this is just a little bit of a statistical analysis, some trends and regressions that you can perform in Tableau using some open source data to help better understand.